Diagnosing 9 of the top 10 check engine DTCs, and we'll talk about that using this great new product over here. This is the Run-Rite Smoke Machine, and this smoke machine, we'll talk about pricing later, obviously comes with all of the good little cups that you need, the glasses, because one of the great things in here is the UV dye. And UV dye shows up, we're going to show you some stuff with that. The cone for exhaust, or what I like doing, Pierre, is actually when I was doing a timing belt, which guys I hate doing, you know, that's a rarity now. But when I would do a timing belt and a water pump, I take the coolant out or the antifreeze out, and before I put the whole timing belt cover and everything back, guess what?
Smoke it.
I smoke it. If it's leaking, you know, like some of the seals on the Hondas were bad, or you have a problem with the gasket on the new water pump that you put in is a problem.
Got kicked off a little bit as you were assembling it? You didn't
This is the way to do it. So, that being said, Run-Rite is our sponsor tonight, and here's what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about the Run-Rite Smoke Machine, what it can do for you, finding things like wind noises. You know, there's money, guys, in wind noises, and, you know, it's a real nuisance. We've tried a lot of different things going down the road with stethoscopes, with some of those electronic ear doohickeys.
Yep. Or just an old-fashioned rubber plastic tube in your ear trying to listen. It's very crude. You know, we tried them all.
Do you still have that? Where is that?
It's probably in my belt.
At any rate, that and air leaks are a major nightmare. Exhaust leaks. And let's talk about exhaust leaks. You know, one of the things that I'm real big on, P0420, obviously exhaust leaks can cause a lot of problems.
Yeah.
People don't realize it. But a good thing to do is take that cone, and when you take the cone and smoke the exhaust, with the exception of the weep hole, start looking for cracks. How many of them, like on these Toyotas, under the metal flanging that's over them, the cover?
Or under heat shields.
Heat shields.
Under
That's what
heat
I was talking
shields,
about.
yeah.
I couldn't think of the word. Thank you. The heat shield.
Actually, my previous Toyota went through several mufflers.
Yeah. And heat shields. How about all the Mitsubishis? The four-bangers that have all of the covers, the Hondas, the Hyundais.
Volkswagens with all the bellows that break constantly on their
Or
exhaust.
how about the guy that has the problem with the O2 or air fuel sensor, where he didn't realize there was a gasket there and he double gasketed, you know, one came on, the last one didn't come off, and you have a problem. It's good to smoke it, okay? And guys, you know, it's not the days of getting a cigar or a cigarette to smoke it. You need real smoke, real volume. And the fluorescent dye definitely helps. Intake leaks. Well, P0171, you can look at our webcast that we did previously on that. Just go to our YouTube channel. Well, intake leaks are a biggie, aren't they? You have nowadays near the throttle shaft, right?
Yeah.
How many things wear out?
And even around hoses, around idle air motors, or, you know, you get these hoses that go everywhere for not just evap, but, you know, various power brake boosters or whatever, and anything that's
And how
air
about
attached.
the power diaphragm? That is, the diaphragm is gone, and the power booster,
In the
because
booster, right?
maybe oil vapors got in. The little people, when they did a valve job, maybe they didn't put the little separator thing back in line.
Or it went bad. Or
That happens?
or
Does it really happen?
there's one, actually, a BMW that I'm very familiar with. Gets
BMW.
water.
I knew we couldn't go too far without
Let's go with that BMW. The water gets into the brake power booster because the drains around the booster get full of pine needles. Is my favorite, but whatever.
But Pierre, those cars have drain problems all over the place.
And then it sucks in a bunch of water, and that valve rusts up. It's done.
It's done. So we're going to look at that and more, and we'd like some of the things, your input as we go through. You know, we're not going to show you the exhaust. Could you grab that cup?
You want this or the
Yeah, just a cup.
this guy?
This cone here, or I call it a cup, we can stick it in a radiator, we can stick it in the exhaust. When we have something like this, where the weld has rusted or the case has rusted, well, guess what? This is a great way to find that problem of I smell exhaust, or I have a DTC for a P0420, and you're throwing stuff at this car, not looking at the complete
You hear a
exhaust.
noise and you're not sure where it comes from because it bounces around under there.
Oh, no doubt. So smoking is a good deal. Now here's the other thing. How many of you have worked on cars like a Honda that have clogged EGR passages? And by the way, there's a couple of things when we're talking about that here, especially since we have Run-Rite tonight as a sponsor. Number one, I go in the back of the exhaust system and I smoke it. In a few minutes, because the volume of smoke, and maybe Pierre, you can pop that on, and we always want to baseline the equipment. You can follow him over. You press the little button there, put it on high volume. And there's a little hose.
It's buried here somewhere.
Okay. And what we should see, and this is always the thing you want to do.
Make sure it's flowing.
It's not our I Dream of Genie here tonight, but you do want to make sure that you do see smoke. Okay, that's enough before I die of smoke. And by the way, it's all
I was
safe.
doing that just to see how much you could take.
It's all safe. There's a material safety data sheet on these things. And the nice part is, once we baseline it and we see that type of volume going through the exhaust system, what do you think I'm going to check up front that's a problem on cars like Honda and other vehicles that...
Besides EGR, you mean?
You just hit
EGR
it,
is it, right?
EGR.
They also have a problem with those flanges by their catalytic converters and flex couplings in exhaust.
Exactly. But how do we test that the EGR is actually being able to flow? If you can't get smoke from the back to the front, and how would we do this? We can remove the EGR valve, open it up, whatever. But guess what? If you don't see smoke coming through in 5 to 10 minutes with this machine, probably a lot less, because we're using air pressure, 150 pounds of air pressure going through the machine. I think it's internally regulated somewhat, but we can get full pressure going through that machine to see if we have any clogs. If we do have clogs, using the Run-Rite system, similar to what we have up there on the lift, you know, we have a set of EGR plates that you should be using on a regular basis. And here in New York, in case they forgot where we're from, they can't tell by my accent.
No, of course not. Or that whole spiel I made at the beginning.
But here in New York, guess what? We actually have dealers, and I know a few of the Honda dealers close by, they have that in their maintenance schedule. They take the Honda factory schedule, and what do? They play with it, and they tell you every 30,000 miles, you need an EGR cleaning service. And by the way, guys, that's not a bad idea if you know how much carbon has built up in those Hondas. And that'll give you DTCs and obviously drivability problems.
And obviously, I mean, we're talking about this, but there's diagnostic procedures. Don't go changing an EGR valve for flow until you've confirmed that the passage can flow.
This is true.
Right?
And how many people do that? You know, throwing parts at a vehicle is not something that's going to make it work. It's diagnosing and then repairing. And many times it's just cleaning the passages out.
Yeah.
And don't tell me you take the old Speedo cable and all your drills and all this stuff. It's a lot easier if you stay on top of it, by using a chemical cleaning. And besides, you're in business to make money, and you're in business to satisfy the customer and keep their vehicle running correctly and for a long time.
And if you don't do it, and it gets totally clogged, then it's a lot tougher, and you may not be able to clean it out.
Well, if you've ever done a Honda and tried drilling out the little freeze-out plugs in the manifold, it's almost impossible to do. You might as well just get a new manifold.
Yeah,
You know, it's that tough.
BMW had one where the passages, actually the secondary air passages, same idea though, were in the cylinder head on an M car. It was like $9,000 to pull that whole motor apart and clean those out. At one point they were changing heads, they couldn't clean them.
Wow. And that's why it's good to do preventative stuff.
Yeah.
You know, especially now with some of the direct injection. Now, you know when you worked at Volkswagen just recently, direct injection vehicles, well, that leads to a whole other problem. Okay?
Yeah, gummy nasty deposits.
Clean stuff up. Let's talk about now some vacuum leaks, Pierre.
Yep.
Let's maybe go over there. You have something all set up for us.
Yep, I do.
Pierre. You
Partially
follow.
set up. We're going to use this. Oop, this. We're going to plug it out. We've already taken some stuff off. So I've got something off the intake. I have not plugged the air filter, so something is going to come out of the air filter.
And I'll be your Vanna White.
We didn't want to ruin this truck too much because I actually have to drive it home tonight.
Oh, come on, guys. Before we're done tonight, I'll make sure it's broken.
Either that or Jerry has to loan me his car, and I wouldn't want the old one, I want the new one. So he doesn't want to do that. Now we've taken off a booster hose You want to flow more, obviously open up the throttle. This is an old-fashioned, you know, non-throttle by wire mechanical
And we got
throttle.
to give it a few seconds.
Yep, to get through there.
And it's a good idea to use a light to see if we have any smoke coming out anywhere on the vehicle. I'm going to get on the other side up here. Sorry, I'm getting my head in the way.
Actually, I can illuminate it.
And of course, we have some smoke coming out here, coming out of this box.
Yeah,
In the box,
there's smoke starting to waft up, but like I said, we did not block the intake.
So what's happening, we're going to lose a lot of the volume coming this way. But
Right.
that's a good way to see if there's anything on this vehicle. And by the way, Pierre, you do have some smoke coming.
No, it's here.
Yeah, you're coming out of there. Yeah, that's coming out of there. And by the way, when you're looking at smoke, try to target the area it's coming out of. It's a good idea to keep everything off. And you can see there, it looks like I Dream of Jeannie did get out of the box.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Hey, look at that. We found a leak we didn't know we had.
Yeah, that's
Pretty
do a little blow
substantial.
there. Pierre's very good at that, by the way.
No, you know what that is? That's where the air intake goes
residual.
into the, no, it goes into the fender well. That's actually
Oh, yeah.
still going all the way through the air filter.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
That's all that is. And now it's just starting to come out on that side, right? Because we've actually filled everything else first.
So you have to give it enough time, and remember, if you don't see smoke, did you actually baseline it and check for smoke?
And if we were doing this for real in a shop, we would block the intake. We wouldn't want this smoke contaminating the area.
We would use one of these caps, right?
Right, exactly.
We would use one of the caps to
Right.
actually plug it off. So we're just getting a small amount coming out of there. That's
Yep.
one of the things that you can do. And it's always a good idea to smoke the engine, not only when it's hot, but when it's cold.
There's a lot of vacuum leaks happen cold, right?
Well, let's talk about composite manifolds. How about the Toyotas? Okay, there was a great article in our TST newsletter where we actually had a Toyota. We have the pictures and everything. Look back on our TST website for that one, where the gaskets on there only leak when the vehicle was cold. And by the way, isn't this common on Fords?
Yeah, we have a little bit of smoke coming out here, but actually because we didn't block the intake, most of it's going out the intake.
Yeah, well, it's going to go like water. Where's it
Yeah.
going to flow? So what does this go to
Least
show you?
resistance.
Pierre was lazy tonight. We'll say this on air.
And didn't prep the car right.
And didn't prep the car. But the idea is to give you, some sort of clue on what to do, what you can look for. How many of you out there are actually using smoke machines? And this is a very reasonably priced one. We happen to have the owner of the company here, so we could kind of ask. I don't know how much it is, but I know it's reasonably priced. So Bruce, if you don't mind,
Yeah, we're selling that unit complete with all the adapters, UV light, goggles, the cap kit, and the cone, and 2 bottles of the smoke solution. So enough for about 400 services or so for
Wow.
$825.
That's
And
great.
we're also doing a promo where you get either a free intake snake setup or a free case of the fuel kits, which is $150 value.
so this intake snake that Bruce said, so it's $825, correct me if I'm wrong, in case
$825,
they didn't hear.
Yeah.
$825, this intake snake won Motor Magazine Tool of the Year. It has a little insert that goes here, and this, rather than playing Mr. Gynecologist for the day, you're actually cleaning the intake with this little snake that is a little insert that goes in a bottle. It's a good swab that you can use to clean it out. And there's also, there are other products that they have. Oh, here it is,
Yeah.
right in front of my face. Okay, so there's the little swabs that go onto the tool. It's pretty neat.
We got a
We got a question?
Yeah,
Sure.
well, we have a tip from Pete Meyer.
Pete, we like your tip, so
From
he's
a
gonna tell
Max
us.
member,
I can turn this off, right?
use your IR temp gun laser to pinpoint source of smoke. As long as the laser is passing through smoke, it will be fuzzy and sharpen up just as you.
Okay, so someone is saying, use your infrared laser, your temperature gun?
Using the laser because it's a very directional light. It's a good point.
There is a laser, in
Yeah.
fact, on here,
3 lights in that light.
there is a regular light. I don't know if they can see this, Bear. You can
Excuse
get
me?
his hand. This light comes with it. There's nothing else to buy. Then there is, once you got that there, you let me know.
Yeah, very good.
Next, you got the purple, and
UV.
this reminds me of 69. I mean, 1969, that is. And then we got the laser.
Hopefully this is not one of those industrial lasers that puts a hole in my hand.
Ooh, it's hands.
And by the way, never, for safety reasons, really, never point the laser.
Yeah, never at somebody, because it's
So
supposed
this
to be the eyes.
this comes with it. And do we have any other questions before we move on to something else?
No, the audio's better, and Twitter, they'd like a Twitter contest to give away the.
Stop,
the-
Pete.
So, by the way, the point about the light, it's very important when you're looking for smoke to have a directional light. A fluorescent drop light is not going to cut it. You need a good, strong directional light. It really shows the smoke better.
Right, and this whole package put together with the glasses, the cones, the whole, everything you need to start smoking stuff on a vehicle. Okay, and now let's take a look at something different here. Let's look at some of the other problem areas. And if you see here in this picture, it's the fuel injector gasket leaking, which this one looks like it's pulled up to leak on purpose. But how many dry seals have we seen over the years?
Forget dry. I had one just last week that was brand new on a brand new injector, and it was undersized. And they had done it on my day, I'm there every other day. So things always happen on the day I'm not there.
Where you're at.
Nope. But the bottom line was, this thing got changed on the day I wasn't there. It's one of my jobs to look at this misfire on a cylinder. It was diagnosed actually correctly as a bad injector. I retested that injector. It was bad. But the new one had a massive vacuum leak. That O-ring kind of looked like the right shape. Big vacuum leak, running lean.
Yeah.
Misfire.
And sometimes you gotta look at the part you're taking out, play the matchup game. And sometimes it looks real good, but maybe when you put it in, you didn't lubricate it. It could have rolled back a little bit, ripped a little bit, who knows? But that's one of the sources of a vacuum leak.
Yeah.
Besides, obviously, if we had a composite manifold that's bad, or gaskets here, even on a metal manifold.
And by the way, when you smoke these things, if it's a manifold and you have to take it off and you think you're going to just change the gasket, because I ran into this too, put a flat edge, a straight bar on the upside down manifold. Make sure it's straight. I had one.
Who has a straight edge?
Yeah, right. No kidding.
No,
A
that's
millimeter and a half, almost 2 millimeters of warpage to that manifold. There's no way that a new gasket was going to seal it. Not going to work.
And let me add one other thing before Bear goes on with questions. And if you're using those Scotch-Spot little pads, you need to be very, very careful. You will take metal off that you don't even think you're taking off, and no gasket's going to do that. You need those the plastic soft finger type ones that you use on a cylinder head.
Right. Bristle brush.
Bristle brush, thank you.
Yeah.
And,
We have a comment here, maybe you and Pierre might
I can
have.
read it. Let's see what we got. Okay. Comment. Central Tools makes a nice metal straight edge. That's good.
There you go.
Ultrasonic sound can be used to find leaks. You
Yep,
can see
that's
a
true.
smoke machine in a head-to-head challenge against the ultrasound. Well, I'm a big guy on ultrasound, and it has its place, but smoke, a customer, are they gonna stick your dirty headset on when they see smoke coming out? In fact,
And you can
years-
take a picture of smoke.
yeah, even
If
years
they're not
back,
there.
when we would do a cylinder leak down test, okay, I would set it up, because we did a lot of valve jobs back then.
Yeah.
When we had the first smoke machine, the Vacutech by Larry Gouge, okay, I would smoke it, and if they seen smoke coming out of the tailpipe or up through the filler neck or wherever it was coming from, it's more believable.
Yeah.
And this is nice and easy. With ultrasound, sometimes it's maybe a little difficult. It's a great tool, don't get me wrong. It has its place, but we're talking about a smoke
I think you
machine.
need a lot of weapons in your arsenal.
Yeah.
And, smoke is, if not the first, depending on the circumstances, one of the first things.
And very
I use.
reasonable.
Yeah, and it's easy to hook up and you get used to using it. But yeah, ultrasound, for that matter, I've had some tough ones that are, it's not part of what we're really doing here, but I've had some where smoke wouldn't come out because guess what? That thing only leaked under vacuum.
Yeah.
And you can't put pressure on the smoke from the outside unless you want to pressurize the whole car somehow.
So there's different,
Yeah,
there's different
yeah,
ways.
different circumstances. Sometimes you need a different approach.
So we're good there? No other questions?
No
We can
other
move on?
questions? We can move.
All right. So let's look at another one here. Okay, here's like a composite manifold there, where we do see, you know, smoke coming out from underneath. A lot of time, lower manifolds may leak from here and up.
Yep.
That's something that, again, you can make a lot of money with this machine doing that. We will look at what the die kind of looks at. Here it looks like a Toyota type setup, where there must have been a oil leak and it was smoked, and you see this little crack in the gasket? It's all blown up here for you. When you take it off and you use that black light, you could find the source. But
Yeah.
this is after smoke is going past it for a
For a
fair amount of time.
You have to smoke it for a while to get the dye to accumulate. It's
Yeah.
very thin. It's very.
Yeah, and it has to drop on it. So
Yes.
it does take a little bit. I would say probably in a 10-minute range. Okay? And I'm not 100% sure of that, but it's something.
Well, I think it would
It's not
depend
going to
on-
happen. Yeah, it's not going to happen in 1 minute.
It's especially important for a place where you can only smoke it when it's together, but you can only examine it when it's apart.
And that's
So-
a good telltale sign of there's a problem there. Let's
Yeah.
say this was a door gasket. Okay? And we're going to talk about smoking, you know, from the outside in with our little diffuser over there, Pierre. You grab that little diffuser, you know. When we utilize the diffuser, Pierre is going to put his air fan on inside the car, and we're going to use the smoke machine on the outside. As the smoke is being blown away, we then can find the source of a leak. So that is something also that you do to make money with the machine. That's the name of the game. So we'll do that in a little bit. There's another good shot of UV dye. Again, this is for smoking it a while. It's not something that you're going to find in, you know, a minute. We will tell you that. And here's another one with the manifold when you take it apart. Show and tell is phenomenal. You know, these shots here of the manifold taken off, you may see some smoke
You
coming
take
out.
that picture, and even if the customer's not there, they understand that.
That's the name of the game. That's the name of the game. That's going to sell work to the customer. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Selling the work that they need, finding the problem, whether it be a crack, a bad gasket, whatever the case may be. There's another one, and how many times, you know, hose clamps. Well, you know, in this case, it's a squeeze hose clamp, but all you got to do on some of these is move them in the wrong position.
Right.
We all know sometimes you do the yank and pull to get it off,
Sure. We're quick.
but it doesn't really go back on all that good, does it, Peter?
No, that's right.
Okay, so,
And
you know,
same is true, by the way, with modern hoses that have O-rings and snap clips, you know. That O-ring gets curled or chipped or whatever, deformed. Or actually, I just saw one recently where it's part of the hose itself. There's a plastic ridge that clip holds into, was broken off. Wasn't sitting right.
Okay.
now, any questions?
We got a question probably for Bruce. What's the oil in the smoker and what do they use to mix in the oil for dye?
Okay, what's the smoke, the dye in the oil for the smoke is basically the question.
And what's the oil?
And what's
And
the
what
oil?
type of
It's the
oil,
same
yeah.
thing. So, Bruce, I mean,
Yeah, it's an OEM approved oil. We don't use baby oil, but it's an OEM approved oil that's safe to use on any factory surfaces. So there's no damage, no concern about contamination. And we use a UV dye that you're going to use just as you would in an oil dye or like with an AC leak to detect that. What's nice about that is sometimes you can see the smoke coming out, but it's under a shroud or under a part of a housing, and you can't exactly pinpoint it. Then when you pull that off, then it leaves that trace dye so you can see exactly where the leak was, like on an intake manifold or a gasket.
And then, and for those of you who don't know, the baby oil thing, you know, people say, well, baby oil is cheap, but the thing is, it apparently can attack certain plastics, certain materials. It can be a problem. It can contaminate systems, compatibility issues. So that's why they don't really want baby oil in these systems.
and there's a couple of SAE papers, you know, namely from a couple of major manufacturers that warn against using baby oil. So this is an approved oil and dye. Many of the OEs use it, if not all of them at this point.
The next question is, so where can you buy the oil?
So where can you buy the oil?
It comes with 2 bottles, and then we sell the oil in addition as well.
Okay. Comes with 2 bottles. When you buy the unit for, again, how much? $825.
$25.
Or you can buy it through Run-Rite. You can go to their website, www.runrite.com.
.com.
Okay. So you can go there or call in, speak to my friend Susan.
Yeah.
And there's an 800 number if you want. You could always email us, or maybe Bruce will just tell me the number.
800-872.
800-872.
8921.
8921. So that's the number.
And obviously, if you have a Run-Rite rep coming to you on a regular basis, you would just order it in the course of a normal order.
Now, some of you guys that have been involved with TST for years know I'm a big proponent of, Run-Rite products. In fact, I think at one TST event, I had another one of our vendors that wanted to put a hit on me. But, I wasn't lying. It was what I used to clean up problems on a B0420. So they have top quality stuff. And when I was first introduced to them by Joe McFarlane years back, I really didn't think that the stuff would work. The logo, I think, is, and no offense to your logo, but it kind of got me. I was like, wow, what's this thing here with these stripes on it? I never heard of them, but they use top quality stuff. My son that runs a shop, he uses and loves, and even the tranny guys love the transmission fluid that they have, the chemicals they have, the sludge hammer that I've been using for years, and I feel a noticeable difference, when I use that on a direct injection car.
Right.
So, without making a commercial out of it, do we have any other questions? Or
Yeah, well, we have one more
Okay.
in regards to the oil. About how long will it make smoke per bottle? I guess they're asking.
How long will the smoke make per bottle? How long could you use it for? And I think you said that answer before.
About 400 tests.
About 400 tests. Now, how long are those tests if I'm that guy masking?
Generally 10, guys are using 10, 12 minutes to do a test.
Okay, so a test is approximately 10, 12 minutes of using it. You get 400 uses out of a bottle. Okay. Now, I'm not sure the smoke is made to work in this machine. Not sure if
It should work in most any.
Okay, should work in most any other machine, you said. So I just want to make sure we get that out there as well.
Okay, and is there a product to clean the smoke machine?
Not required.
Product to clean, now there's nothing that
The
I know
question
of.
was, is there a product to clean the smoke machine? Smoke machine shouldn't need cleaning.
Yeah, and please explain, what you're talking about, what needs cleaning. I really don't know.
And you might want to reiterate, there's a few questions about internet stopping, about the flash player maybe again.
Oh, if you have a problem being knocked off, just real quick, you need an updated flash player. So you'd want to email us. We can't do it right now. You could watch this whole thing in its entirety on YouTube, but email us at info@tstseminars.org. We'll send you a direct link to the latest flash player if you're not sure of how to do it. Okay, don't worry about those bears. Let's just, any other questions to move on? Okay, so we're good there. Let's, this is the whole thing we've been talking about. This is what you get, the 2 bottles, the light, the caps, the little tool it looks like there for taking something out of evap, the cone, and all the good stuff there. But let's take a look, Pierre. I have a wind noise. Why don't you put your blower fan on and let's see how we can use this to find out. And I'm going to be disconnecting this from here right now.
We hear that.
And again, the first thing to do, and if you notice the machine, if you can just go in there on the machine, you notice we have, from a small amount of smoke volume to a large amount of smoke volume. So,
Turn this fan speed
and by the
down.
way, this will come out at a way higher volume.
So you
We
see,
have the compressor down, so
nothing
this is
happening,
low
nothing
air
happening,
pressure.
nothing happening, but when we get near an actual leak, look what happens.
You can see it blowing. Let me get out of that picture.
Actually, let me shine a little directional light, remember? First I have to turn on my directional light. The directional light shows it. Where there's no leak, it just goes up, it's, just smoke. But when it's near a leak, it's blowing away.
And we have a comment here, or a question, do you ever use the smoke machine with the engine running? If so, what do you do about the belt-driven fan? Well, I don't think I've ever used it with...
What do you mean with the engine running? You mean for the intake?
Yeah, I
Clarify
guess-
that, because you wouldn't use smoke on a running engine because it would simply be consumed by the engine and the byproducts would be eaten by the catalytic converter. That wouldn't work. Now, if you thought you had, I mean, I can't see a time when you'd use it on a running engine for some kind of
Yeah.
drivability.
I
It
can't
wouldn't
think
work
of
that
that.
way. Smoke is a test you're using on a system that's sitting still.
Right. And let's look at another thing here. Are we using air or CO2? Well, for tests like this, you don't want to waste your money on CO2. We are actually using shop air. And by the way, if you want to hear some noise, if I put the compressor on, which will be real noisy, the volume of that smoke will come flying out big time. We have it shut off for, I guess, quite some time now. I didn't realize it. But
Yeah, just to make this so you're not hearing the compressor
Yeah.
run, because we all know what a compressor sounds like.
so now someone here says exhaust leak, shoot smoke around the pipes, I guess.
Oh, so actually that would be
He's
a valid idea. So you have a car running and
That's
you want to see if
very
it's
good.
puffing out. So you go under the car with the car running and you shoot smoke at it and you see if it moves.
But
Much
the-
like it just moved around there.
Well-
That would work, but you could find it equally well simply by having the vehicle off and putting the smoke into the system.
And doesn't that make it a little bit tougher and it's hotter and stuff? You know, Pete says here on exhaust, just plug the cone in the tailpipe, and that's the better way to do it. And
Right.
just smoke it like I said earlier. Remember, we could have a very high volume of smoke coming through this machine because it's using full shop air.
Right.
I mean, you know, what we can do is if you want to hear noise, I'll put the compressor on, you know, and
Right.
you'll see a lot of smoke coming out. Now, no shop air for evap testing.
Now you have to use an inert gas.
You could use CO2 hooked up to this machine to do that. That's why it does have the little piece here that connects to the evap system, okay? And we do have a little turner thing, I don't know what happened to it. Pierre probably,
In the box.
oh, it's in a box, no big deal.
Now,
Take
by the way,
it out.
I've run into this. This is in perfect shape, it's brand new. But if you use this a lot and you abuse it, and you break the little tab off in the middle of this fitting,
And it could work
it
too
will
bad.
not depress the valve. So, you know, be careful of stupid things like that. I've run into that recently as well.
Well, you know, when you work with a lot of different people that abuse equipment,
And
this
may,
is-
and may not understand exactly how it works, actually.
right, and this happens in the real world. I mean, that's a good thing
Yeah.
that you brought up. You know, when you're working in a big facility, that Pierre works a few days a weekend, well, you're gonna encounter a hell of a lot of problems like that because the guy has nothing in it. It's not his tool, he doesn't
Right.
care, and of course they break things. It's just
Yeah.
like people losing things, so.
They break this little connection on the hose because they yank on it constantly.
But these things, you know, it's a nice metal, easy to put down, nice little feet on the bottom, nothing to scratch, easy to use, nice and
And
lightweight.
obviously, a lot of times you want to hook it, now, careful, hoods
Careful
like this.
saying you want a hooker. That's-
If you
can't
want to
say
hook
that,
this
yeah.
on your hood latch,
Oh,
is what I was really,
that's- oh.
what I was really saying. Jerry's just trying to see if he can flush.
See if he could lose his life.
Yeah. Ain't gonna happen. So, if you hook it on that little tab on the hood, and it doesn't
Or
have,
anywhere.
and it doesn't have a strut, just be careful that you're not dropping the hood on your head. Use a hood lock, use a hood strut, whatever, something to hold it up, because
That's a good.
even though it's not real heavy, especially as cars get older, those hood struts barely hold the hood up to start with.
So let's ask some of you guys out there, what are you using a smoke machine for? And Bear, you can chime in as well. You have one.
Well, we have two quick comments while
Okay.
I'm waiting for the other ones. A lot of guys say they always take the valve out just probably to
I was gonna
maximize the smoke.
Well, that's what I've had to do since
And,
they brought the tool.
and a quick reminder
So
that,
let me just say that, in case you couldn't hear Bear, what he was basically saying, someone has said they take the valve out so
The
you
valve
get
out
a
of the
better
test.
volume of smoke. That's a very good idea. Get
well,
that.
the Schrader out of the port on the vehicle.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
really.
And by the way, it's a
important.
backwards thread.
That was the other comment to make
Yeah.
as a reminder that
And
it's
if you
left.
lose the little Schrader valve, do not try to put something else in.
No.
Do not put RTV in the hole like I seen someone do.
Oh my.
You know, all the new cars, they're starting to do away with these straight of out of
Yes, yeah.
They're doing away with it where you would need to carefully go into the system
Right.
and, you know, tap in.
Have an adapter so you can detach a line and
And by the way, I believe you sell this, Bruce, there's a cap for the gas cap.
Yes.
There's a cover for the gas cap that is additional, it's not in this kit. But a lot of times people only smoke from the front.
Right.
And that could be a problem when we're dealing with evap. Why? Because we have many systems that have the little ball in the back, and guess what?
And they
We're
have-
not gonna see a rusted, because we are in New York or in the East Coast. We get
Seen a
rust,
little-
guys.
Seen a little rust, yeah.
You're not gonna find that neck
on that
that's
truck
rusted
right
out.
there.
This is a Toyota, so God knows it's rusted.
We got
Yeah.
a comment. One fellow uses the smoke machine for AC vacuum actuators, leaks,
Very
leaking
very good.
diaphragms.
Okay, so let's finish that one there, in case you couldn't hear. Someone uses the smoke machine for AC vacuum diaphragms, and, you know, when doors don't open or close, or how about the old German cars with vacuum control locks?
Yeah,
Those,
that was a great system.
that was a great system, and
Good for money,
smoke.
because you had to go through the whole thing and replace a whole bunch of vacuum lines and or little vacuum solenoids.
Yes, and go ahead, Bear.
Yep. Okay, we got. One fellow says has used smoke machine to find bad spots in wiring harness. It only works well with the harness that uses the solid tubing loom over it. If there is a rub spot, you can see.
Oh, that's
Okay,
good.
so here's somebody using it
Tip
on wiring
from-
harness
from
that's got a
Gonzo.
solid conduit, and they're putting smoke in it to find a rub-through spot.
And that was our buddy Gonzo from
Yeah.
Oklahoma. Hey, Gonzo, I like that idea.
That's a good idea.
That almost sounds like it's something to really try.
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't
right.
think of that myself.
And it wouldn't work obviously with a wire wrapped, you know, just a taped up loom. He's talking about a solid wire harness that's got a solid casing on it.
Well, let's use an example. Oxygen sensors no longer have a open metal cap. So what are they doing? They're using the wiring as the air source from out of the exhaust stream. And by the way, let's look at General Motors that had antifreeze that would leak on the floor of the car, the oil that would come through the crank sensor, or
All the way to the PCM.
yeah, or maybe some of you guys remember the fuel injectors, the vortex system that would put fuel right up, if this was a GM, right here to the PCM because of pressure going through. So anything that can go through a wire, guess what?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, of course, because I have to mention BMW at least a few times.
BMW. It's in my sleep.
They have something called their map cooling, their computer controlled thermostats. When that electrical plug leaks coolant, and you don't really usually use smoke for that, but you could. That's also a sealed harness, all the way back up to the PCM.
No doubt.
Completely sealed, that's why it conducts water so well.
Do we have any other suggestions?
One more, V6 3.0 Ford Taurus with clogged cat melts composite intake through the EGR valve.
There you
Oh,
go.
yes.
The intake melts from the inside out, looks like stalactites and stalagmites on the inside.
Well, hopefully you could hear that. It was a V6 Ford, 3 liter, did you say?
Yes.
A 3 liter with a clogged catalytic converter, melting the intake, and by the way, that uses what they call a DPFE, a differential back pressure EGR sensor. And when that system does clog up, again, there's a perfect example to use wherever it happened to the cone. There it
It's
is.
still in the car.
And you're not driving away with it, Pierre. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, that's right. Not the way to get a souvenir.
Using the cone, you could easily find that. If you're not getting smoke up through it, you got a restriction. You
Yeah.
should be doing this. And by the way,
and in the case of what he's talking about, the cat is clogged, the EGR is not clogged, and the hot exhaust gases are going up in sufficient quantities to melt all that plastic stuff up top.
and by the way, isn't this a good idea? You know what I also do with the smoke machine? I take the little hose here, and I put a little rubber hose on the end of it. And when I put an evap solenoid in, I don't care if it's a vent or a purge solenoid, I put it on there. I'm going to energize it with like a power probe. I'm going to find out what end. But when I'm smoking it, I want to see nothing come out when it's in the normally closed position. Okay, and that would be a purge solenoid. When it's in the normally open position, I want to see a lot of smoke, and I energize it with the power probe. I should see no smoke coming out. I do this multiple times to make sure, like you just had one.
I just had one, by the way. So I thought that I had a problem with my computer. Actually, at first I thought it was a problem with the smoke machine. The flow went to nothing, and I had no flow after I energized the vent solenoid. Everything's sealed, right? No flow at all. I thought I had a pinch in the line, because the guys are always screwing up the lines here. I disconnect the hose like we tested before. Smoke came pouring out. The pressure, I had flow. I went back to the vent solenoid, and it had activated. It had flowed before I did the test. Smoke was pouring out the back of the car. It stopped flowing when I activated the solenoid, and I think everything's good. By the way, this was a system code, not a flow code. When I hit the release of it on the scan tool, I thought the scan tool had faulty software. The valve never opened.
Never happened.
Like that never happens, right? I had to go back to the valve with a multimeter, and what did I have? I had power into the solenoid, I had power out of the solenoid, which means the computer was not closing it. And it still was closed. It was mechanically closed. I actually hammered on it a few times. It never opened.
So use the BFH.
A small, an SFH.
But sometimes tapping on them. But I found many solenoids, we talk about bidirectional control with your scan tool. I found many solenoids will work 1, 2, 3 times.
And then
the fourth or fifth, they get stuck.
Right.
And with salt, especially vent solenoids here in the Northeast.
Yeah, they're out there. Under the car.
They really mess up. So it's a good idea to check anything that needs to flow, evap,
Multiple times.
or vacuum through. It's a good idea to do it multiple times. Any questions or comments on that, guys?
Not at this point.
Okay. So, and what have you been using smoke for?
I would say the first two things, the two highest priorities are evap leaks and intake leaks. Those are probably the two number one. And second, after that, I'd say would be probably crankcase leaks. And then everything else is way down on the list.
And
numerically speaking, those are the things I see.
But let's talk about crankcase leaks, and talking about BMW.
Oh yeah, the old PCV valves. Only PCV valves are cheap, so they can't be a PCV valve. It's a crankcase pressure control valve. That's expensive.
But even leaks, if we take out the dipstick, in this vehicle, where it's right here,
there you go.
You can't see it from there, but here's the dipstick, and I take the stick out and smoke it, from here, we could see if there's any crankcase leaks.
That's right. Now, by the way, of course, since they're industry leaders at making stuff impossible to repair, BMW doesn't have dipsticks anymore.
Yes.
They may be dipsticks, but they don't have one.
This is true. But this is a good thing. The reason why I brought that up here, how many front and rear main seals leak?
Right.
And any pirated air that goes through on a mass airflow system is really not good.
Or not even the seals. How about oil pan? There you go. Look at that. We got a big leak there.
Okay.
And if the oil cap was on, it would be as much. It wouldn't be.
Well, of course. But how many oil cap seals start leaking? Right.
Yeah.
And how many oil pan gaskets?
I was just about to say that. Oil pan gaskets. Now, you can see that the crankcase is connected to the sump because it's coming out the intake there.
And you can see the volume, and again, our compressor is, let me tell you what it's down to. It's down to about 60 pounds up there.
Right. We didn't want to hear
We didn't run it. We don't want to hear all the noise and annoying you
Right.
guys.
Compressor's coming up.
Believe us, there's a lot of flow. If not, call me up and annoy me.
By the way, the customer comes in, has a problem burning oil. There's let's say a problem using oil. The oil is disappearing. They don't see any leaks on the ground. You don't find any leaks when you check it. And, a lot of people would say, you need a motor, right? But one of the things you should really check first is a crankcase leak that is not leaking oil out, but is leaking air in. And I've used this quite a bit to find oil pan gasket leaks or timing cover gasket leaks, things like that. Because a massive amount of air going through the PCV system will consume a fair amount of oil on some engines as you drive, because it's vaporizing or boiling or bubbling that oil and carrying it away through the PCV system. And you're burning it through the intake.
Exactly, and that's not good. Now, you can see we stopped our smoke using the cap. You know,
Right.
we have nothing coming out now. These caps come in handy, and that is included in the kit. And if we did open up the oil cap just a itsy bit, you know, we're gonna start to see
There you go.
smoke
Coming out.
coming out. And again, there are a lot of caps that are bad out there.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, but the big thing that you should be concerned with is selling jobs. If there's
Yeah.
oil leaking, this is not good, you know.
Or even
So-
air. Even the point is air in the crankcase.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
I just finished a hybrid class recently, and one of the things on these expensive hybrids, there's electric motors and stuff that you will know about. But the point I want to get to is someone like Ford has all the expensive inverter and stuff right here, the inverter converter and the motor generator, the valve cover gaskets right there. If you get a leak on something like that, and the gaskets, those thin rubber gaskets, you're cooked, okay? So
Or
what's
at least the
better?
car is.
What's better, and how hard is it to pull out the dipstick and do a quick check and say to someone, look, you have a problem with an oil pan gasket or a valve cover gasket. This is how we sell work. And again, you bring someone out here and they see this, they see that coming out, and you go, hey, look, you know, it's tight, okay? You show them that, that's gonna be a difference. And by the way, I did this to see if there's maybe a little tinge. If you look there.
Actually, it's more on his fingertips, I think, at this point.
Don't worry about my fingertips there is. But there's
Yeah.
some right there,
Right on the
if you
gas.
can see it.
You see the UV dye.
Okay, so that was a few minutes. Okay, so there's the UV dye.
Got a few comments and questions here for me to
Okay,
catch up
we
on.
like that. Let's catch up on a few comments and questions.
Pete Meyer commented, older Dodge V8s leaked at the lower intake manifold plate, sucked oil out, no exterior leaks.
Yeah.
Okay, so Pete Meyer, thank you, an older Dodge V8, and Pierre jump in at any time, because
Okay.
memories.
Yeah, he was saying that it would leak oil and it's basically suck it up the intake and burn it, but have no external leaks at all.
Right. So again, using a smoke machine, great thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Another comment, I'm not sure quite what it's in regard to. Add an oil catch can to catch PCV oil mist.
He's talking about using an oil
$7
vapor separator.
$7 at Harbor Freight.
Well, we won't go there.
Well, that's kind of, that might work as a test thing, but basically what they're doing is they're making an oil vapor separator by having a can in the system so that the PCV vapors will have to, let's say, hesitate a little while before they're
Right.
burned.
And by the way-
some of it will condense out and be in the can.
Right.
I wouldn't use that as a permanent solution to anything because you create other bigger problems.
Now
But as
there-
a test procedure, it's
Right, now there are other companies, like Volvo uses a flame arrestor, they call it.
and they plug up all the time.
The screen, they plug up, and by the way, when you hear, that's the plug hitting the firewall, because you can't get 5 pounds of dew out of a 1 pound bag, so something's gonna give. And
Right.
also, how about Ford, that for years used under the PCV valve, the little screen itself that plugged up.
Plugged up.
And that's when you have people not changing their oil regularly.
Not doing services,
Not
right.
doing services. That's for you to sell. Any other questions or comments?
Nope.
We're good.
All right.
So anything else that anyone, I mean, you know, you can only talk so much about smoke. I mean, I think it's something that every shop definitely needs. I've been using one. I have my old Vacutech machine that didn't work by air. It had a little silly pump. And these things have come a long way. It didn't have the volume of smoke like this.
Right.
Didn't have the dye in it. In fact, I'm going to give myself a plug. This is true. I gave Larry Gage the idea of putting the fluorescent dye in there because I said, hey, look at the oil additives that I had, the dye for the oil, the
Been
dye
using
for the
those for
train.
years. Still use them.
Those were great. And by the way, that's when you had that big light that would burn your arm with the cage on.
I still have one of those.
So, I think I threw the last
150 watt
150.
incandescent bulb in UV.
I tell you, I think I was having flashbacks to my old room when I was a teenager back in the Woodstock days.
Yeah.
But at any rate,
We don't want to
the
go there actually, do we?
this is handy and really nice.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that, and I have to ask Bruce this. You know, we talk about spectrum of light. This light obviously works with the dye that they use in their machine. I'm not sure, because some guys ask, can I use this with air conditioned dye? Depending on the spectrum of that particular dye. So you should just be aware of that out there. This may be a multi-spectrum light, I don't know. I don't have a clue.
Okay. A few more questions and
Sure.
comments. One question was, do you need to drain the oil to smoke it?
Oh, no.
Drain the engine oil, you mean?
Yeah.
No.
And there
Because
wasn't,
the oil, do you need to drain the engine oil to smoke it? No, the oil's gonna sit down in the pan. You should have your mainsail seals, the gaskets, the valve cover.
Everything would be above that. The only thing the oil will not reach is stuff that's under oil, which is really the sump itself. If you got a leak in the sump itself, then you should see that.
You know,
it should be visible if you clean that off. Then you might want to use an oil dye, put it in the oil, clean it off. If you can't find it, if it's something very subtle, and then you'd use a UV light on that dye just around that pan. But everything else is above the oil, and the smoke is basically in a gas. It's in air or CO2 or nitrogen, and you see it.
And you know, let me bring one thing up. A few years back, I had a vehicle in here, and it had a bunch of leaks on this car. So going under with a black light or whatever, it seemed like everything was dirty. They tried brake cleaning it all up, and you know, sometimes that spreads the dye.
Yeah.
There is dye cleaner. Maybe someone was talking about that before. I know some company sells a bottle.
Glow away.
Glow away or
Yeah,
whatever
one
something
brand.
is. You know, I use brake clean and just blow it off real good. But at any rate, this was the case where they drained the oil in the pan and smoked it. There were tiny itsy bitsy rust spots in that pan that you wouldn't really see. In fact, even on my Jeep, this is no BS, on my Jeep, the oil pan, when I was doing a crank sensor on it, I noticed the oil pan was getting rusty, and I did the same thing that I seen a few years ago. I drained the oil and smoked it, and I had to call Chrysler and get a new oil pan because the vehicle just sitting around, the pan rusted. What a great way to use it.
By the way,
Same with trannies.
even if you have an engine that's got an aluminum pan, it's an aluminum engine, sometimes they use steel gaskets that have a rubber profile in them, and if moisture or corrosives, whatever, get in there, as it corrodes, it'll spread that gasket, basically push the pan away from the engine so the rubber profile gasket can't seal. It can be pretty subtle.
Yeah. Other questions, Bear? Why Pierre shuts his fan off before his battery?
oh, maybe there's a couple here you might want to look at.
Sure.
If you want.
You want me to look at it?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm going to look at it while you're looking at Pierre.
yeah, well, we'll watch him.
Make sure you get his good
Watch,
side, will you?
watch him,
Okay.
I don't have
watch
a good
him
side.
there. You got a good side, I'll zoom in.
I used to have a dog that had
Well,
his
and
nose
it's
broken. He had a
sorry
smiley
about that.
side and a snarly side, and he learned to show the side he wanted to people that he liked or didn't like.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
Sorry.
so
Any other
I
questions
think we're pretty boom, going here. Let's see below the oil level. Not a bad idea to fully expose any seals that may be below the oil level. So Pete said that.
now, by the way, another thing that you could use smoke for is if you had something like a heater box that was making funny noises or whatever. Now, the problem with that is, of course, you might have to take a bunch of dash pieces off to actually see where it is. But you could put smoke in there and see if this, this is usually after somebody's worked on it and didn't put it together too well. You could see where the cracks were in the casing, or the clip's missing, or the gasketry is messed up, whatever. You could smoke it and find that.
Okay, here's a question. Where do you get the nitrogen bottle to do evap testing with, and how much is it to fill nitrogen? Well, Brian, that's a good question, but I would suggest you get a CO2 bottle. And the CO2 bottles you can get at paint stores, paintball stores, and or Lowe's, or buy it. I'm sure Run-Rite would sell it. The CO2 bottles are refillable, because sometimes I go to Lowe's, My son used to have a good connection. There was a paintball lady that would fill all our bottles up. And we do have a big CO2 bottle as well that we can fill the little ones from.
And if you don't want to do that, basically welding supply, any gas supply houses will have all of those gases. Depending on the amount you use, you know, that'll determine whether you want to buy a big tank and fill your own, or go there to refill the littler bottles when you use them, stuff like that.
And by the way, they're not bad on an exchange. I think they're about $11 to $13. The bottle, if you have to buy it, that's expensive the first time out.
Right.
Now here's another question, Pierre. Someone here says, I keep having to change a purge valve, goes bad on my car every 3 to 4 months.
I love this
It's
one.
a aftermarket part. We won't mention the name because we don't know this.
But it may not be a bad part. Let me just tell you something. The next time you have that vehicle in, take the hose off the valve and look down the hose with a bright light and see if there are particulates in there, because you may either have currently a bad charcoal canister, or you had a previous charcoal canister and it dumped particulates and they are messing up the valve. If in doubt, put those cheap little fuel filters that you can get for a lawnmower or whatever.
The old Volkswagen ones.
Yeah, that's it. Anyway,
Work
they were
great.
used on a lot of things. And put that in line close to the valve. Obviously, clean everything you can see first. But you can't always, I try to clean all those lines when I change a canister. Fact is, they go into the car. No matter how much solvent and air you blow through there might still be something in there. CYA, put a little filter in, because I don't think those valves are defective. If they're failing to seal, they're being attacked by something, and it's usually particulates from the old canister.
And Brian here, yes, you're correct. CO2 is an inert and therefore safe. Yes, it is. Shop air for evap is not a wise choice.
It has oxygen in it.
Okay, oxygen and spark would be something that is not a good choice. You can easily hook that bottle right up to here, a little bottle, or get yourself even a big bottle that we have right here in the back of this car. We tend to use that more when I'm on the road doing an evap class. I just take the little bottle, because guess what? I don't want to go lugging around this big bottle. And no, they can't ship you a bottle that is full. They need a special license to transport that.
When it's empty, it's a piece of metal. When it's full, it's a hazardous material in a bottle.
And by the way, you know
It's not
something?
hazardous.
Something totally off. My son finally used up some of my last Stabilant 22. Something just off. So I went online, because parts stores said they were going to take a week and a half to get it.
And it's
So I'm like,
expensive, that stuff.
yeah, I said, like, they're insane. So I go online, I get a decent price. They ship it. They didn't warn you this online. They ship it. It may came out of Canada. They tell you what you need. It's a concentrate. It's a 1 ounce bottle, but it's like slimy, gooky stuff, and it tells you on it you must add 99% isopropyl. Has to be that or ethanol. Either one to activate it. They cannot ship it with it all
Diluted with the alcohol.
Exactly, and that's basically what's in it. So they tell you, and it comes, it's all printed on it. So just something right off the top of my head, just to tell you where this hazardous stuff, they can't ship it through your normal UPS or USPS or whatever the case may be.
They can't ship any of that stuff by air, by the way. It all has to be done surface,
But you'd be
ground.
surprised what they ship by air.
Yeah. Batteries can blow up in the air, but
Yeah, well, that's the new game, right? That's the new game now.
yeah.
So, I want to shut that off. Any other
A
questions?
few more questions there if you want to,
Okay,
Let's
Address
entertain
them.
the questions.
let me see what you got. And we stay there. Yeah, always err on the safety side, no doubt. I really like that. But yeah, that is the best thing to do. Required for what reason? Someone asked. The inert gas. So you don't have hydrocarbon vapors and oxygen. Oxygen and hydrocarbon. You need to go look at the movie Backdraft and see what happens.
The bottom line is, at that point, all you need is a spark.
Yeah.
So if you have a failed component that's creating a spark, or you have a static, you're pushing air through a system, you're creating static electricity. Now all you need is the right gap for or difference of material someplace for static electricity to generate a spark, and you've already introduced the other elements to make a fire.
And by the way, don't they have many gas stations have little warnings about sometimes grounding yourself, no cell phone usage?
Right.
You know, air and hydrocarbon vapors are dangerous. So only use an inert gas. Yes, you could use nitrogen, but the reason why we recommend using CO2, you should have a gas analyzer in your shop. And sometimes smoke does get trapped, like on a lot of the Asian vehicles, you get that charcoal canister problem, don't you? The charcoal canister, you're looking for smoke, it gets trapped in there.
And it doesn't come out.
You'll
It's
see the
absorbed.
dye. Yeah, you'll see the dye later on.
Later, right.
But if you use the gas analyzer along with it, that is a real way to find it quickly.
And that's an argument for using CO2 as opposed to nitrogen, because the exhaust analyzer has a CO2 detector, but it does not have a nitrogen detector.
That's right.
Nitrogen's in the air anyway.
If the G-Man doesn't have a nitrogen tester in the shop,
Nobody does.
you know, it's not happening. So, at any rate here, the Run-Rite Smoke Machine, to wrap this up, we'll go through a couple of things. This is a perfect choice to do a lot of different things on a car, some of which we showed you. It's real quick and easy. Remember, intake leaks, exhaust leaks, evap systems, air noises, wind noises. You need a smoke machine in your shop, and boy, it is priced right at $825, right? 2 bottles of dye. Well, this is QVC, I think I'm doing. The glasses, the cones, everything you see there with the light included. That's really good. We do want to tell you, TSP, we're a non-for-profit group. This coming Monday, we'll be up in Auburn, Massachusetts. Tuesday in Southbury, Connecticut. Wednesday in Totowa, New Jersey. Thursday here in New York, and is all over the world simulcast, so you can come on and see our buddy Joe Glassford. It's understanding, diagnosing, and troubleshooting the current path. You do get a handout and a newsletter. TST members get a discount on this, and again, it's for a good cause. We're a 501c education approved non-for-profit group. And again, it's September 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 2013. And once again, we'd like to thank Run-Rite for being our sponsor tonight and that new great product. Good luck with it. Don't forget there are other good products that they have. The Snake, the fuel system induction cleaner, Sludge Hammer, which I've been using for years, really works well. And if you remember, if you've been an old STS through SAE member, when we went up and thanks to Bruce, we were able to go into the Texaco Chevron research facility and actually see certain things that were quite amazing, and even have one of their chemists as a guest speaker.
Right.
So I want to thank you once again, and of course I got to give a plug where I make money. We're here at Automotive Technician Training Services in my training center, and we want to thank you again. If you need any training, check my website out, and if you're interested in the Run-Rite stuff again, www.runrite.com. And thanks for showing up. See you soon.
Thank you very much, guys.